Welcome to A Magical Life, Health, Wealth and Weight Loss. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, lead practitioner at Holistic Natural Health Australia and #1 best-selling author. In this podcast, I aim to give you practical tips on how to accelerate and sustain your health, increase your financial, spiritual and emotional wealth, and to look at something that haunts many of us needlessly, weight loss. In some episodes, I'll have guests available to give you even more tips, but in others, the floor is yours. Drop us a line at A Magical Life Podcast on Facebook and let me know what you would like to know more about. Now, sit back and enjoy, because it is time for you to create and truly discover a magical life. Welcome back to Magical Life. I am your host, Magic Barclay, and today I'm joined by the gorgeous Inga Truscott. I've been so blessed to know Inga for a few years and have begged her to come on and talk to you all here on A Magical Life. So without further ado, let me introduce Inga. She's a mum of 3 young adult girls who are all, by the way, stunningly gorgeous as well. And she's worked in the promoting space for about 16 years. In 2006, she had a chance of meeting Don Tolman through a family member, and it changed the course of her life and her career instantly. She's a wellness advocate with a passion for sharing natural solutions and demystifying everyday challenges. She's a dog lover, a beach lover, and since the pandemic hit, she's become a green thumb, which she's pretty good at. And I've actually seen her garden. It's pretty amazing. She's an introvert and an extrovert, which means she needs a few days to recover from all the peopling. Geez, I get that sometimes. And she's fiercely protective of her own personal space, home, out and about. Don't stand too close to Inga, because if you haven't met, you might need to move in for a hug. She's one of those huggers. I can attest to that one. She's learning to set boundaries to avoid what comes with too many feelings, and she's fairly outspoken when it comes to injustice, particularly child trafficking. I agree completely there. Now, I would love to introduce you, listeners, to the gorgeous Inga Truscott. Welcome.
Thank you, Magic. Thank you so much for this opportunity as well. I am a people lover and an extrovert introvert. So, and with COVID, I've really missed this opportunity to connect to beautiful people like you. So thank you once again. I'm super grateful.
You are more than welcome. And I've missed seeing your smiley face. I have to deal with Facebook.
I know. Oh, and whatever level that gives us, I'm not too sure. But
I'm not too sure.
I know. It serves a purpose. It's for at the time being anyway, yeah.
It does. Now, tell us about being a wellness advocate. What does that entail?
Okay, well, that's a great question. It's a really broad question. So hopefully I can sort of narrow that down to my fields. Through the course of my career, certainly the last 14 years, 16 years in promoting, but 14 years in the wellness space, I've just seen so much confusion around health. And I just love the idea of breaking it down. And I love the idea of a wellness advocate as opposed to, a guru or an expert. I just advocate good health and wellness.
That's fantastic. And at Holistic Natural Health, what we do is we treat the systems of the body, and we just, people gravitate to us that have been so let down by the medical and the functional or integrative model. It just doesn't need to be that hard, people. Treat your body systems like the temples that they are, and they'll reward you. But definitely use the wisdom of nature. It does not need to be difficult.
Absolutely. Magic, one of the things that we've noticed, and I'm absolutely convinced you see the same thing, is we tend to be the last place people come to. And I find that really sad. If only people came to, our kind of mindset, our kind of teaching first, they could save them so much pain, suffering and illness and even death. It's really sad that we're the last rung. I believe that's changing, but you've got to be an advocate for that message. And that's what we try and do, just like you.
So true. And we met through Don Tolman, who is a good friend to both of us. And I agree. I found Don in my darkest moment when I literally had no more chances. And why did it take that long? Why did I not know about all the things the world could provide for my health until I had no more opportunities? It's just so sad.
That's true. One thing I've noticed, I guess it's not just the great work that we're doing, or we'll take all the credit if we have to, but it's really not. One thing I've noticed, certainly over the last 14 years, is a shift. The audiences were getting younger. The illnesses that we were seeing were a little bit easier to overcome. Not easier. That's not generalizing. That's just some of the cases. But in the beginning, we were seeing a lot more older people. And like I said, they really had been through the ringer. They were serving two masters. We were seeing people that were just unsure about what we were teaching and what Don's teaching, and Tyler as well. And so many great teachers out there now, yourself included.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's really cool to see that shift. We're not out of the woods yet, and certainly the current, I'm doing bunny ears, but you can't see them, the current health situation globally is putting fear back into people. And that frustrates the heck out of me, because it doesn't need to be that way. This is the time we need to own our health and own our power. So we've really got to speak up about what our bodies are capable of without medical intervention.
Totally. And the creation of this fear, and I've spoken about it on the podcast before and I've written about it in my blogs. When you create fear, you are creating stress. And what is the number one cause of disease? It's stress in any form, whether you are facing a virus, facing a bacteria, a fungus, a cancer, mental illness. Stress is the thing that triggers the whole lot. People don't buy into the fear of anything. Turn your television off, put the newspaper down, put some music on instead of the news on the radio, and get out and see what the world actually has to offer you without the fear.
Absolutely. And you nailed it. What we tend to do with fear and trauma is we send it to a place in our body that is a container. And that is exactly where, typically we'll find our illness starts. And even the words we use, I'm sick to the stomach. We even have coined phrases for doing exactly what we shouldn't do. And we say the words and we still don't hear them. So it's really important to tap into pain, trauma, heartbreak even, and say, what am I feeling now and how do I get through it? Because you can't go over it and you certainly can't get under it. You've got to go through it to allow the healing to happen.
Totally. And I think that shift is happening, to take your health back and to really embrace things like essential oils and herbs and foods and sunshine and clean, structured water, which I spoke about a couple of episodes ago, listeners, in internal water flow. So go listen to that one. There's so much that is out there to help us that have zero side effects.
Yeah.
Actually, I lie. Has one side effect. You get better. That's a great one.
That's right. Yeah, look, I think I'm trying to be really cautious because I don't want to, again, generalize. And I know with your listeners, they're coming to a place for help and for advice and for support. So I don't want to diminish their feelings and what's going on in their life. But certainly with COVID, it has given us an opportunity to scale back a little bit. I know a lot of people have lost a lot, but I know a lot of people have gained as well. And you mentioned my garden, and I have found for me that to be so therapeutic. Yes, I love my essential oils. I grow oregano. I'm still going to use what I grow in the garden just because I may have it in a little bottle, There's so much therapy in nature and breathing and the 7 principles, walking, and there's just so much. And I think we've really had a beautiful opportunity to heal parts of ourselves through this. And I said, not to diminish people who have lost businesses, and suicide rates are so high and there's just so much trauma out there as well. But if we can kind of tap into communities like what you provide and what I provide and what so many others are doing, we can kind of move through that trauma.
Totally. And you mentioned the 7 principles. Now, one of the 7 principles, or pillars of health is rest. I think in times of lockdown, we have to look at the one positive that's come from that. People have a chance to stop and rest. Yes, you may have lost your job. Yes, you may be facing some dire financial consequences, but you have time now to capitalize on the rest opportunity. And it's something that you wouldn't have afforded yourself before.
Yeah, that's so true. Certainly for us, we traveled a lot. I think we probably, maybe we were home for 8 weeks at a time, tops. But probably in that 8 weeks, there was a 3-day workshop thrown in as well. So that's not really home. We typically stayed on site to avoid seeing our puppies' eyes in the morning when we have to leave them, and so we've got this time now to just tap back into what we didn't have otherwise, and to just tune back into what our body really needs rather than be on that go, 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 go. Yeah.
Totally. I ask the same few questions, Inga, of all of my gorgeous guests. So I'm going to get right into our first question. And I find it's really interesting everyone's different take on these questions. What are your top 3 tips to creating wealth? Now, when we talk about wealth, it could be personal, financial, spiritual, emotional. What are your top 3 tips?
Oh, look, I don't want to be the cliche girl, but truly find something you love to do and you're just driven by it. That's just, I can't stress that enough. I thought that was the biggest cliche, and I thought that's, never going to pay the bills, and that's never going to afford me the extraordinary life I wanted to live and I wanted to show my kids. So I was so fortunate to land in this opportunity to work with Don Tolman those years ago. But to be perfectly honest, I have really always loved my work. Whatever I was doing, whether I was working for something, the only job I never liked was working in a clothes shop because I'm not a very good liar. So I really had to tell someone if they didn't look good in anything. I lasted 2 solid weeks in that job, by the way. But even that I enjoyed because I just love being around people. So if you just find something, like write down what lights you up and then find something, there's always going to be something there, and you can kind of like it too. There's a little saying, slow to hire and quick to fire. And I believe that that's the same with your career or the works that you're in. If something's not resonating with you really early in the piece, get out, find something else. And it might be a passion project until you can afford what it is that you really want to be doing. But just at least do that, because passion projects can turn into the most epic things, So
They certainly can. I can attest to that.
Mm.
Going down the rabbit hole of getting my life back and my health, and I found my career, and I can't imagine ever doing anything else. And I just love being with my clients every day, speaking to them, seeing them absolutely, kick their goals and get what they need and what they want. And I do what I love. So there's no day where I roll over and go, oh, yuck, I have to go to work.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that's just that way you've got to frame things as well. Certainly being in a wellness space and in a promoting space, we saw some pretty tough stuff. As an empath, as a feeler, I found myself quite overwhelmed at times with people's loss, with their health. I saw a lot of people who's had children that were very unwell, losing loved ones, trying to help loved ones get through certain health challenges. I found that really tough. They were probably my lowest days in that work, particularly being on the front line of people's problems. So I was like the gatekeeper to Don, And
what a great gatekeeper you were, I have to say.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. It wasn't always easy, and sometimes we even had to say no when there just wasn't that opportunity to see Don. And so, my husband and I and certainly my crew, we have beautiful crew, of which you were one of many times. We would have to really come together to make that decision. And so they were tough times at work. But the joy of being able to give people answers, it negated that pain that was really hard to just not have answers for people. Typically, not having answers was when they were serving those 2 masters and driven by fear.
Let's talk about those two masters a little. I have clients come to me that are working in a completely medical space. They might be taking chemo. They've had, the radiation, surgery. I'd certainly had surgery before I woke up and walked away. And then they come to someone in a more natural medicine space and want us to do something for them. But we have to constantly try and counteract what the medicines are doing, the side effects. So,
Yeah.
how do you explain to people that, yes, we understand your fear and that is why you're doing X, Y, Z, but we're going to be playing catch up until you
Yeah.
choose one master?
Yeah. I guess I was fortunate to come from the position that I really was the gatekeeper and not the voice. So quite often, some things that I would say wouldn't really land, but if Don said them, they would. So I got this opportunity to say what I felt and I needed to say, but also say, look, let's put it back on Don, because that's who they really wanted to hear from, even though I'd heard everything he would have said to probably everyone he spoke to a billion times over, the same talks, the same conditions, the same. I would be really honest with people and just say, you have to be really brave in this moment. But at the same time, we've got to be very careful as well, because it's a duty of care. And if people are only taking on half of what we suggest, and then they're still doing that other stuff, they can put themselves into some real trouble. So ultimately, self-care is about you doing it yourself. And so that would be typically, if I wasn't just like hiding behind Don and saying, Don, help me, they're not listening to me, it would be that whole duty of care that just says, look, this is all about you and what feels right for you. You have to own that. I can't take responsibility for your self-care magic. I can only take responsibility for my own. And so that would be typically how I would approach something like that for someone who was just really afraid to put down those pharmaceuticals, that absolutely felt within every ounce of their being that the chemo or the path that they were going down was the right one. If that's what they feel, that's what they feel, And that's
Totally.
how it is.
And when people come to holistic natural health, what we do is we explain the side effects of the pharmaceuticals and we say, look, we're not going to tell you don't take them. We can't and we won't. Simple as that. That would not be enhancing or upholding our duty of care.
Yeah.
But part of that duty of care is to let you know what the side effects are, what that means for the other systems of your body, and what that means for your healing in general. So we're not going to say, don't do that chemo. What we're going to say is, okay, and this is what it's going to affect. This is what we need to work on, but we will be playing a bit of catch up here. We have to be honest with that.
Yeah. And, there's some really powerful questions that need to be asked when people are going through some sort of a health crisis or trauma. And it is, why do you feel so called to take the medicine? Just as this is just a hypothetical example, why do you feel so called to do that? Oh, because they said, because they're an expert, because, the answers are always the same. But if you can dig a little bit deeper, you'll find there's a fear. There might be some emotional trauma that has caused this, or it might be a family member that's forcing them or something. And so just to be able to get people to ask themselves questions to come up with the answers is pretty powerful. It's not always easy, and there's some serious blocks, especially when you get them at the end of the road, right? Like,
Totally.
nothing else has worked. Why should I believe you? Why should I trust you?
My answer is, why not? I did.
Exactly.
And I'm still here
Or
after
what
12
if?
months to live, 7 years ago now?
Yeah, you're amazing. You are really amazing. I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
you do the work that you do, because you are so inspiring. I mean, heaps of fun as well, but
Oh, thank you.
good value all round.
There you go. I'm good value, listeners.
But this is the thing. You got to surround yourself with people that you resonate with, that lift you up, that are good value. I would think I'd have real trouble if I believed someone's mythology, but I didn't like their bedside manner. I need to be able to really resonate with people. And I've found being that extroverted person, I'm too much for a lot of people. And that's okay. I'm also a who person. So if I don't have the answers, I'm always going to ask myself, who do I know that I can link this person up with that might resonate more with them? They may have exactly the same things to say, but they might just have a different way of saying it. Same results
Totally.
going to come. Yeah,
Totally. Now, Inga, you do work very closely with essential oils,
I do.
and I love some of the recipes you put up on Facebook, particularly the COVID nail care one. That's been a godsend for me this year. So, listeners, I used to treat myself and get my nails done every fortnight with some organic gels. I did it with as little impact on my body and the systems of my body as possible, but it was one thing I could do as a constant. Of course, once the nail salons closed, I had a terrible time, and Inga came to the rescue with a really gorgeous recipe, which later on I'll tell you how you can get in touch with Inga and you too can have that great recipe. So, looking at essential oils, when we see clients, we prescribe essential oils to use in structured water. Now, the big ones are we use doTERRA, so we use the On Guard. If you're using Young Living, I believe it's Thieves.
Yeah.
There'll be, an antiviral blend. What are your other three go-tos that you would ask people to use?
Frankincense is amazing. I just want to preface the essential oils. There's a couple of reasons why I started to use essential oils, but predominantly when I really fell in love with them, it was around breaking through emotional trauma. I had been using essential oils. I had early menopause. So I went through menopause. I started to go through menopause at 36. And I used peppermint oil for hot flushes and cooling my body down. And that would be one, by the way. I'd definitely have that in my top three. So there was this whole practical application, but it won't discount the fact that if you got emotional trauma, you can't really mask that with anything. I mean, it'll still show up at some point in your life, and you won't even expect it. It'll just be like boom. And it could be illness or it could just be a breakdown. So I love peppermint for a practical application, and I love it for energy. I love it for headaches. I love it for waking me up, vitality, everything. I mean, it's just amazing. It's also great in the garden, the bugs. So that's a top one, but I love frankincense. What I love about most essential oils that I use on a daily basis is there are PubMed studies on them that don't have to be woo-woo. I love a little bit of kumbaya under the Bodhi tree, don't get me wrong, but I really love the fact that they have got science to back them up. So you smell good, but you also really, you're really tapping into more than just that woo-woo. So
Well, it's a medicine of the ages. Essential oils came about because people were distilling herbs and using the medicinal properties from them. But what we do need to say here, Inga, is that you must use a good quality essential oil. Getting one from the $2 store full of toxins and artificial crap, sorry for the word, but it is. There are so many brands out there, but there's really only one or two good quality brands that you need to use every day, that are safe around your family and that have the research behind them. As you said on PubMed, when they're talking about essential oils, they are talking about oils that don't cost you $2 a bottle. So
absolutely. Yeah.
whilst some of the oils, especially frankincense or myrrh, can be quite pricey at times, it's the quality that you're getting.
Therapeutic grade essential oils are a game changer. I teach a lot of stuff around oils. I do classes and I have a beautiful community where I love to teach. It's a total love job. I can't believe my luck, to be honest. It's just such a gift. But I'm always just exactly like you, Magic. I'm always saying, please don't take anything what I say and apply it to a store-bought oil. Please don't do that. We use these oils. They're tested. They're safe. They're therapeutic grade, and that's why they work. We were just actually really lucky. We've got 4 essential oils, but peppermint is one of them, has now just been given TGA approval.
Yay.
So we know it's therapeutic. Fennel is another. There's another couple. I'm not going to do the whole thing. But yeah, so we know that these oils have got TGA approval. That was really, really hard to get. I mean, that's medicine right there, people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, so peppermint, I'll go back to your question, sorry. Peppermint would be my go-to. Obviously, frankincense. I love lavender. I do love On Guard. We've got so many oils to choose from. It's that question, what oil would you take to that deserted island?
I would take my whole suitcase of oils.
I don't think my boat would stay up. I think I'd sink before I got there. But yeah, it's hard to choose, but I definitely have my Frankie, my peppermint, and probably lemon is also an amazing. I'm just talking about health purposes. I'm not talking about, I love arbor vitae and Douglas fir. I love all the firs for generational healing, tapping into emotions. Lavender for communication and staying calm. Can't choose. Sorry, babe, I can't answer that one.
Now, listeners, I do have to tell you something. I share a lot about my family on this podcast. My eldest son was diagnosed with narcolepsy when he was 16. He would fall asleep at the drop of a hat, be asleep for 27, 28 hours, wake as if he had not had any sleep. And we just didn't know what to do. They wanted to put him on medications. I looked at the side effects and I went, no, I'll find another way. And I actually used essential oils. So in his room and around his desk during the daytime, I would diffuse peppermint and peppermint only, and quite a high concentration. And then in the evening, when I wanted him to slow down and get into a rest state to be ready for sleep, I would diffuse lavender. So I would actually go to the trouble of washing out the diffuser, because we only had one back then, and reloading it with lavender for the evening. And I have to say, hand on heart, within 2 months, he was sleeping what was a relatively normal cycle. And that was just using 2 essential oils.
That's just such a powerful testimonial. Like, it's so powerful because, whilst he was having trouble, it flows onto you and your ability to parent. And I often say to people when they come to me, I want to get some essential oils. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I can help you. What for? And they're like, well, little Johnny's not sleeping, or da 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 da. And I'm like, and how about you though? Because mama can't pour from an empty cup, right? So I'm like, great. Let's talk about little Johnny in a second. What about you, mum? What's going on in your life? And that way, when I can help mums and primary carers, whether it's dads, foster, whatever that might be, work on their emotions and balancing out, what's going on in their life, they're able to give so much more. And then we can work on little Johnny or whatever that might be. It's just so powerful to know that in this tiny little bottle, there's just such a high concentrate of plant power that we can rely on, And look, again, I try not to generalize with everything I do. Obviously, if someone said to me, I've just got this headache, I'm not just going to say, well, peppermint oil will fix that. I'm obviously going to say, how much water have you had drank today? Or what stress is going on? Have you got some extra tension? I take a holistic view when I help people with a wellness consult, much exactly like what you do. But, I just don't have all your qualifications. I'm sitting here with my garden and my herbs. And my
hey, I do that too. Now, Inga,
good.
the last question that we have here, obviously the podcast is health, wealth and weight loss. So we talk about weight loss here because so many people, especially women, really needlessly have to deal with weight loss. Now, I myself have had an issue since my first child was born with my weight. Now, knowing what I know after having released a book and everything about it, I know it's toxic load for me was the issue. But what has been your experience with weight?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll try and make this really short. I was a yo-yo dieter for a long time. I had an addiction to diet pills. I was probably 70 kilos, but I'm really quite little. So when I was at school, I was quite homesick. I never felt like I fitted in, and I would nourish my body with food, but all the wrong food. I was internally sad. I was sad, and I thought that if all I had to do was just be skinny, I would be happy. You know what I mean? If that makes sense to you. So
yeah.
That wasn't the case. And even when I thought I was skinny, I still wasn't happy. So I started to look at that internal belief system of why would that make me happy? I know chubby girls that are really happy. You know what I mean? What was that coming through for me? And I just know that nourishment that you give yourself that's not real nourishment, temporary nourishment, is just not the answer. You've got to ask yourself the hard questions, the emotional questions. What's it going to take for me to love myself exactly as I am in this skin? And how do I nourish the soul who I am, the person that I am? How do I see the greatness in myself and honor my temple, my body? You know, that's not to say I don't, you know, sneak in a chocolate every now. I don't even call it sneaking. I'm like, hell yeah, I'll have some of that. But I never feel good after it anyway. You know, you got to tap into those questions. And I just go back to the 7 principles. I mean, every single time. Why am I feeling sad and what am I looking to nourish my body with? As opposed to maybe I should go for a walk. Maybe I should get in the sunshine. Maybe I'm just thirsty. Maybe I'm not really hungry. You know what I mean? Does that make some sense? Like it's
Totally.
truly, it's the simplest things. And when I stopped making this excuse and also being naughty, I felt like all the naughty things I could do could make me feel good, like feel better, you know? So diet pills was a big one, you know? My husband's a really healthy guy and I hid that from him for many years because it felt like I had some ownership over being like naughty and a bit of a rebel and giving myself some joy. And actually it was the stupidest thing in the world. When I actually started, and this was a few years ago now, the weight really started to shift off my body when I walked away from diet pills. You know, that was the craziest thing about it, was I thought I needed them to keep me skinny and energy and go, go, go. But I had so much more energy when I finally just said, these don't work. These don't work. I told myself the story. These don't work. Or that 10-kilometer run on the concrete is just hurting my knees. What about a beautiful walk on the sand instead? You know? And that's what worked for me. And I do use my oils, emotional. As I said, I am a feeler. So I tap into my emotions and what's going on for me. Why am I feeling sad today? What oils are going to support me? How do I get through this? Not push it to the side and deal with it later. And then just to love the body that I'm in. You know, I might not have a 6-pack. I've never had one though, and I'm okay with that. A smile is so much more beautiful than a 6-pack. Not that 6-packs aren't cool if you've got one. Like that's, you know, kudos to you.
I have one, but you know, it's under a keg.
You just got to step out of that judgment and just step into your heart. You know, that's how I feel anyway. And you know, if you've got a couple of different size pair of jeans in your wardrobe, that's all right. There's a backup plan there. But the skinny ones on, whatever lights you up. But if you're losing weight because you're not happy rather than you're not healthy, then that's what you've got to look at that.
Totally. Now, Inga, we love giving the listeners freebies. You know, we really pride ourselves on what can we give to the community. So first of all, where can people find you?
Yeah. I'm on Facebook. I'm pretty vocal on Facebook. I know you said in my intro about my passion for advocating against human trafficking and child sex slavery. So if you follow me on Facebook, you'll probably, or if you haven't, you've probably seen something I've put up. But I'm on Facebook on my own name, which is Inga Truscott. I think I've got 300 spaces. I delete as quickly as I add. But I also have my therapy, which is Essential Self-Care with Inga Truscott. And I love Instagram, which is essential_selfcare.
Great. Now, what freebie can you offer people here?
I do wellness consults. I love to do that. I love to send out essential oil samples to help people identify with what oils could solve a problem. So I'm always up for that, for sending out free samples just to help people to identify. You know, I say, what is your top 3? Like just what you asked me, you know, I'd be like, what is your top 3 health challenges? And we'll try and find something that you can try at an absolutely no risk, no cost, to see if we can help break through some emotional stuff or whatever's going on. Yeah.
That is fantastic. That's a great offer. Once you get introduced to some of the oils that resonate with your needs, you'll be in love. Like totally.
Absolutely.
You will just never stop using them.
I'm so grateful you're in our doTERRA community, Magic, because what you offer is so, so powerful. It's awesome.
Thank you. And we have been using essential oils at home now for 7 or 8 years, but definitely in practice and in clinic, they're a go-to, they're a must. We use the antivirals, we use the digestive blends, we structure the water. You mentioned lemon, that's a big one for structured water. Again, it's an antiviral, it's an antibacterial. Lavender, we use it's, first aid in a bottle. It's great
Yeah.
stuff.
I noticed you use a lot of Digest Zen as well, which is our
Yes, we do.
digestive blend.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just touch on that super quickly because I liken a lot of the oils to an emotional connection as well. And Digest Zen is the oil of assimilation. So if you are struggling with some trauma, emotional information, something like that, Digest Zen is an amazing blend because it really does help you to digest that information. So it's not just for tummy health, it's also for emotional support as well.
So a lot of what we deal with our clients is what we call stealth infections. So viruses, bacteria, and funguses. And the biggest one that we look at is candida, because so many people have candida. And listeners, let me tell you that it's not just Candida albicans. There are actually 270 types of candida. So, we're not just talking thrush, we're talking chronic gut infection, and Digest Zen is just the best blend to get that little bugger in control.
It is amazing. Some people have got an issue with that fennel smell. I love it. And fennel is one of our TGA oils. So TGA approved oils that's in that blend. Peppermint is TGA approved. It's also in that blend. So in really safe hands. If you don't like the smell of an oil, there's always the soles of your feet. Okay. Put it on the soles of your feet, put on some socks. And I'm not entirely sure your range of listeners, but these are for the guys too. Essential oils are not just for the women. We have a lot of bro terrors in our community and they love their oils just as much as us. So just as much as the chicks.
and I can back that statement up. Spikenard is one that when I opened the bottle, I thought I was going to vomit, like the smell of it. I put it on my feet and it was brilliant.
And it is a beautiful healing oil too. Stock up on that because there's a whisper that they might have to discontinue that only for the short term because with doTERRA our oils are all sustainably sourced, so we don't deplete the earth just to make a buck. So spikenard might be one of the stock up, Magic, stock up. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. You didn't hear it from me, maybe.
There you go. No one heard that, did they, listeners? So again, if you get your essential oils and you open the bottle and it's like someone just slapped you in the face, there are different ways to use it. You do not have to have it up near your nasal passage. And yeah. I certainly would never put spikenard anywhere from the waist up because I would be able to smell it all day.
But that's why I like to sample when I give free samples. That's why I like to sample with 2 oils because somebody just may not resonate with that first oil. And I would hate for that opportunity of healing to pass me by because they didn't like the scent of something. So that's why I say if any of your listeners would love to get some samples out to them, then absolutely it would be 2. I'll send you 2 different ones because, we're all different as well. So,
And we've talked a lot today about people. While we're recording today, listeners, my elderly cat is sitting on my printer staring at me and he's reminded me of an essential oil that in the Southern Hemisphere, it is time to get this oil into your kit, and that is lemongrass. If you have a flea problem or a tick problem where you live, diffusing lemongrass through the house is enough that it's safe for cats and dogs inside the house, but it deters little bitey critters.
It's also the oil of cleansing. It's no coincidence that is one of your go-to oils because it's the oil of cleansing. It's incredible for even when you're exercising and it helps you just sweat out toxins. And it's a cheap oil. Like, even though this is therapeutic grade, it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. I mean, I don't know how you put a price on health, but you can, there are many ways you can approach it. Yeah.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Inga. We've
Thank
had a
you.
great chat. I would love for you to come back maybe with some recipes. If the listeners would like to jump onto the Facebook page for A Magical Life, Health, Wealth and Weight Loss, pop in some things that you would like to hear about with oils.
There's
But
just so many:
everything.
sleep, energy, stress, skin, gut health. Yeah.
COVID nails. There's another
COVID
one.
nails, COVID nails. Oh, there's so many things. Well, with the top 10 oils, and we touched on a few of them, there's 150 different uses just for those oils. You may only ever get to around 50 of them. You may only ever use 70 of them, maybe whatever, but 150 different uses for the top 10 essential oils. So there's a little something in there for everybody for sure.
There you go. We'll have to do some recipes on the next podcast that
I would
we have you
love
on.
to. I would love to. Thank you. I'd love to.
So everyone, you can find Inga at
Essential Self-Care with Inga Truscott on Facebook and essential_self-care on Instagram.
Great. Thank you very much. Now that was your episode 29 of A Magical Life. In episode 30, you have me talking to you again. Just remember that everything you hear on the podcast here, you can get in touch with the people that tell you, go straight to the source. You can contact myself and the team at Holistic Natural Health at any time. Definitely reach out. We would rather hear from you. You may think whatever you have to ask is a silly question, but there is no silly question apart from the one that's not asked. But for now, please go forth and create your magical life. Thanks for listening today. Please subscribe to hear future episodes, leave a review, and share this podcast. You can follow us on Facebook at A Magical Life Podcast or at Holistic Natural Health Australia. That's holistic with a W. You can find us on Instagram at Holistic Natural Health or at www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. That's where you'll access all sorts of articles, freebies, and more.